welcome folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. This is going to be your SITREP. It's Wednesday, 6/29/2022. It's about 11 a.m. Central Time, coming to you from the great state of Texas. And without further ado, now make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and bell for notification, and also don't forget to get that free download of the app, and you'll get the latest pushes and anything else we put out there besides the blogs and the shop and all the other good stuff. And again, it's free 90 free. So couple things I want to talk about. P.O. Box 1142. Some of you are probably, actually most of you are probably looking at that thinking, what kind of title is that? It makes zero sense. What are you doing to us, monkey? So let's do this. I'm going to hop over here. I want to show you a couple things as we kind of get into this. Well, actually, you know what? Let me see if I can find a better way to do this. All right. We'll come back to this because I want to kind of segue into it. Ultimately, when you may think that that the Nazis just went away, the reality is they did not just go away. In fact, P.O. Box 1142 was actually a top secret, later made to secret, and then released. It was actually not released until 2014, the details around it. But started in 1942, and it was basically a very nice immigration camp, so to speak, where they would bring in the Nazis that were captured, and they would woo them. They would basically bring them into this very nice resort type of immigration camp that had pools and volleyball courts and all kinds of cool stuff. And they would utilize that to actually get information out of the Nazis. Well, it later transitioned over to Operation Paperclip, which you've probably heard of. That is where we actually went out and recruited 1,600 of the top Nazi scientists. Now, you may remember too, if you, like for myself, I've been to Dachau. I can tell you firsthand, I've seen what they did to the prisoners there, specifically the Jews, relative to science experiments. And it was straight up barbaric and inhumane. But they, between 1945 and 1959, they brought over 1,600 of these scientists out of these camps. Okay. And so the next piece to this, which is really interesting, and that's why I'm looking at this document behind me, because this was released August 1957, Resistance Factors and Special Forces Areas. This is when we basically recruited Nazis, along with our CIA, into Ukraine in 1956. All right. And in 1957, they put this nice little paper out, but that project and program was already up and running and has run, folks, to this day. Okay. Now, if you look at the flags that were done during that time relative to the resistance, they are identical to Antifa flags. They're black and red. It's the same group. It's the same people. It's the same concept. And it's the same antagonators. They did the same thing in 2016 with that same group to overthrow the president who put, now we have Zelensky in, and that was actually all a U.S. operation. Now, here's the other piece to this. 1956, CIA stood up with the Nazis in Ukraine. But in 1957, October 1957, those same scientists were used to start NASA. That's right. And then 4 months later, what else did they start? DARPA. Okay. Now, if you track both of those, if you know anything about DARPA, DARPA is where you get all your mass surveillance today. All right. Everything from Facebook to 23andMe to Ancestry.com to all of the mapping. Yeah, you guessed it. LinkedIn, Twitter, Google. The list goes on and on and on. So, yeah. Those scientists, those very scientists that came over, were used to start DARPA, the very one that has been doing mass surveillance on population now. You can see it all kind of tying together, but now you see why we have strongholds in the Ukraine and why we're trying to protect it, okay? All right. A lot more to come from that, but I just stumbled upon it because I was doing some research. As I mentioned, I am going to be in Huntington Beach, California at a Hope for Our Times conference in August. And that event is already sold out, but there will be online tickets available, and I will share a link with that as soon as that becomes available as well. But it should be pretty cool. It's going to be a prophecy conference with Tom Hughes and a lot of other cool folks. All right, now let's get over here to Skyglass. All right, we're going to kick it off A couple things I want to show you. We're going to talk a little bit about celebrity tracking. I will just show you what I've got up right now in terms of celebrity. We've got Steven Spielberg up, Kylie Jenner, and Eric Prince. We don't talk about. But you can see these guys are on the move. Those are going to be your purple aircraft just getting airborne. Now, from our watch list perspective, got a lot of things tied in as we get into this. If you want to track this kind of stuff, just remember, you can go out, download Skyglass. It is about $5 a month. You get the same data. You can go and build your own watch list. You can go data mine stuff. I'm telling you, Skyglass is as much as an intelligence tool as it is a flight tracker. The amount of data that is in there, like for example, I can tell you exactly where these folks are gone. Eric Prince was coming out of Kansas. You got Kylie Jenner coming out of Apple Valley, California. But I can go down here. I've got Jay-Z, last seen in Nevada. Elon Musk, Trump, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Jim Carrey, Mark Cuban, Tom Cruise, twice actually Tom Cruise, Tiger Woods, Mark Wahlberg, and of course Jerry Jones from the Cowboys. Those are just ones that I have stumbled upon as I was looking for aircraft that were flying, and these guys happen to be airborne. So very, very cool tool, like I said. Not that I really care about where these folks are going, but it's just kind of neat to watch it. Now, if we look at this watch list, you notice the blues that are in here. These are going to be mostly Homeland Security, Border Patrol. We got a couple. These are little F-5 fighters out here. If you remember in the movie Top Gun where they were doing dogfighting, and you had those aircraft that looked like Soviet MiGs that were just basically converted U.S. aircraft F-5s. That's what this is out here. And there's 3 of them out playing little dogfighting games off the coast of California right now. And let's see. We do have several of our Department of Energy aircraft up. We've got another helo that's going to be, where is that one actually? Located western area. I'm just trying to get a better location. New Mexico. All right, so that one's over in New Mexico. We do have DE 412 up here over DC. Again, that's going to be your sniffer. The rest of these, for the most part, are going to be Homeland Security, except for that Energy Bird right there, 737-400. Now, of course, as always, these at the very top piece of this are going to be your military intelligence spy birds, okay? Those are balloons that are up. And then let me peel this down just a little tighter. We can look at our watch list closer without all of the other stuff that's kind of mixed into it. This is going to be where we are today. Again, there are your military intelligence balloons over the United States, racked and stacked. And then we've got B703, which is going to be a J-Star that's mapping out basically like a war stuff, right? And Q4 up over DC, that's going to be one of your drones doing a little recon intelligence over the Washington, D.C. area. There's one of your whitetails, 757-200. Then get over to Europe just to show you. The R135 is doing a lot of legwork, as is, there's that one. And I'll show you a little closer here on the other side of that. But you can see back and forth over Romania, Bucharest, and, of course, Constanta. And then we've got that NATO E3 that's out there as well, which means we've got fighters up over that general region. And then, let's see, out here, we've got Spain. Of course, we've got the G7 summit going on in NATO happening in Spain. That's over in Madrid. A couple P3s and a 75200 SAM flight. There's your NATO. That SAM flight, by the way, is going to be one of the dignitaries. I don't think that's Flashbang. I mean, it could be, but I don't think it's him. All right. And let's see. Let's take a look at the heavies. Give you a little bit of a flavor of what's going on. A lot of traffic. As you can see, all of it's coming back across from the drink. So we just had a major push, and everything looks to be coming back. Again, East Coast centric. Jacksonville, South Carolina, you can see there, up there in Delaware, D.C. kind of area. And then, but look at that. Insane amount. C-17s, that's going to be your long range guys, right? Maine. Looks like some of them stopped for fuel there in St. John's. But then over here to Europe, you can see, again, very heavy flows. You can see all the aircraft that are coming in. Of course, they look like they went into Munich and Frankfurt kind of area. And down, it looks like something flew down there. A400, a British A400 flew down over kind of Libya area. And then we've got that stuff taking shape right there on the border near Syria as well. I mean, out of Turkey. All right. And then over to the refuelers, you can see very East Coast centric, but we've got some activity going on here in the center U.S. And I am not sure what is happening out there other than a lot of activity. That's a lot of air refuelers, actually. That would indicate a lot of fighters up. Same thing here, East Coast, Virginia Beach. We expect to see it there. And you got one headed out over the Gulf of Mexico. And then these up here on the northeast. All right, and over to Europe. Let's see if we got anything new. We've got this one that's out kind of right on the border of Belarus, putting some fuel in fighters. That means we got fighters running right along that border line. Again, keeping it high and tight. Then Constanta, as always, protecting that port for some crazy reason. And then this one here, pay attention to that, because last time we saw air refuelers right on the border there towards Syria, we had some activity going on, which were taking out targets in Syria. So we'll watch that and see if we get anything popping in the news. But I know they've been very active in Syria as of late, okay? All right, let's transition on over. We talked about the activity going on across the drink. Actually, let me give you a quick roll-up because it's going to paint a better picture before I do that. Sorry, I know I'm bouncing around on you, and I'm just going to try and keep it simple. But you can see kind of the overall flow. It's going to be refuelers and your heavies. That's your C-17s and your C-130s. Again, nothing over the area, Spain, which is Madrid is where everybody's hanging out, which is kind of interesting. It's like they're clearing the air over there. And then, again, this just a little bit there in California, Southern and San Francisco. For the most part, though, East Coast centric as always. And you can see that's a lot. I think there's about 30 air refuelers up total. But you mix that in with the heavies, and you can just see it just stacked, racked and stacked. Even as you get over here to Europe, very, very heavy traffic. Now, we haven't even begun to put the troops into play yet. So that's just a data point, okay? Wait until we start putting these troops in. We're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. Okay, so this is going to be volcanic activity. Got 8 popping right now. We've got Duquesnoy, Simaru, and Krakatoa all kind of kicking it down here in this general area. And then 5 of them right here, starting from Fuego up here in Central America all the way down to South America, just north of Chile, and right there in Peru, southern Peru, really. But again, those are ash alerts, and those impact air traffic, so that's why we show them. And if they continue to spew, they're going to impact us and our ability to produce crops. So, okay, this is Flashbang Schedule. Again, he's still over there in Madrid. I don't see him bugging out just quite yet. Looks like he's got dinner in Spain. Notice he's meeting with Erdogan. More than likely, you're going to see him flip the switch back over on the F-35 stuff that Trump shut down. And he's trying to grease the skids. The reason for that meeting is because, remember, Erdogan just lifted his veto for Finland and Denmark to join the NATO. Okay, so, or join NATO, not the NATO, but anyway. All right, so we know we've been watching them actually talk about increasing troops in Europe. I've heard the number upwards of 300,000. I've heard it even go higher than that, but they're expecting this number to actually triple. Right now, we've got 100,000 U.S. troops in Europe, and they're trying to get it to 300,000. Now, the trick is, will they all be U.S.? Will they be other troops? But this, if you kind of break down where our biggest presence is, we've got 38,500 troops in Germany. We see that when we're watching Ramstein and some of the other bases. The UK, 11,000. Italy, 11,500. And then all of them are kind of just scattered out and peppered throughout. I mean, one of those 5 U.S. troops in Serbia. So don't know that's making a big difference. Turkey, as you know, we've got troops in there. There's 2,000 of them currently. But you get into Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Finland, very lean, only 5 troops, but that's a non-NATO country. Same thing with Sweden, and then Norway is a NATO country. But anyway, the whole idea is they're going to be bumping up considerably. We're going to be watching the traffic. One of the beauties about what we are witnessing right now, unlike previous history, we are actually watching World War III unfold. We're watching all of the positioning of troops. We're watching everybody jockey around the world. Whereas before, we would actually have to go to the History Channel, and it was, several years after the war, and they started kind of piecing everything together and painting that story and that picture, and you can see things like, Operation Barbarossa and all the other stuff that Hitler was doing. Well, today, it's just the opposite of that. We're actually out in front of it, and we're watching the troop movements. We're watching things stand up. We're watching everybody get into position as this thing gets ready to go hot. And so a very interesting time to be on the other side of this and to be able to see it. This is historic, folks. Never been done before. So pretty cool. Okay, so this is where we are. Let's look over here at the NOTAMs. You will see the U.S. is popping right now. We've got a lot of boxes going on. These aren't VIP type of things. We do have one little one here, and I'm going to show you that in a second. These are all, for the most part, either space ops or military exercises and operations. We do have a new one out here in Hawaii off the coast. You notice that long, the fact that it's got so much space. I think these are, same thing with this. I think these are rocket or, I think those are probably launch related type of exercises, okay? Got a box down here north of South America. You can see the stuff still firing off the East Coast. That's supposed to end July 1st. We'll see if it goes away. We get over here to Europe, and you can see very, very hot. Lots of activity all the way from Africa in here to this general area, Portugal, Spain, all the way up into Iceland. This is kind of crazy. And then, of course, we know this whole area is just one giant red box. Now, if we back away from that and go to the right, you can see, again, this is Hawaii, and it's going to be Japan. And you just notice lots and lots of activity and exercises going on. We are starting here any day now, a very large, in fact, it's one of the largest naval exercises we've done to date, right kind of in this hot spot here. Off of Japan in between China. It's going to probably stir the pot quite a bit as we look to build that alliance with Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Philippines, etc. So, okay, now let's take a quick look as we're talking about the ocean. Let's go over here to this side of it. I just want to show where we are. We've got one ship right now from coming in from China. That's the only one I've seen. It's the only one I've seen in 4 months. If you look at the stuff that's in there, there are onesie twosies from Hong Kong. Everything else is domestically from the U.S. All right, very light for that matter. Notice the flow goes right on past the U.S. And then here we are looking at China, Shanghai. I just want to kind of walk you through. It is still pumping. They're still feeding their own system. Look at Shanghai. I mean, look at off the side of that, just packed, absolutely packed with ships all the way down. A lot of stuff sitting as it waits to get into the limited spaces within the unloading docks. Again, hasn't changed much. I don't know. This has got to be fishing trawlers. It's the only thing I can think of. But there are a ton of them sitting. And why are they sitting? Offshore. It's just crazy. Are they all fishing in the same area? Probably not. They look to be all parked and kind of just hanging out in that same area. Get over to Sri Lanka. Same deal, Colombo. Notice the ships, the fishing troughs down, or boats down south. Colombo, that's the main port. Nothing in Sri Lanka. They are going hot very quickly. This is not a good situation for them. And then, of course, notice the flow of goods coming through that Suez Canal. Now, I do know the Suez is actually being repaired right now from when that Evergreen ship turned sideways. They're actually trying to widen some of the areas. And then, of course, the flow of goods into Russia across the Black Sea, right up in there. And then notice this. We seem to be staging a lot of ships. There's not really a port to speak of there. They just seem to be parked. And that's a lot. It's a lot of ships sitting, and more so than what you see outside of Constanta. A lot of oil tankers outside of Constanta. Again, this is one of the spots we're watching speculation for human trafficking kind of stuff, right? Kaliningrad, let's get up here and take a look. You'll just notice a lot of Russian boats still in there, all right? I do see, there's one right there, Baltica. That's a Russian tanker. Another Russian cargo boat, Russian tanker. So even though they talk about shutting everything down, it doesn't look like, again, another Russian boat. Doesn't look like they have done very much. It seems to be, again, just rhetoric and lip service, and they're not really doing anything. So, all right. Now, over here, too, as we looked at this on the marine side of the house, let's take a gander. Let me close that out. Constantly something popping up on my screen. Drives me crazy. All right. This is going to be your military stuff. Just to show you, notice the amount of things going on down here between Florida and Cuba. Quite a bit. Seem to be mainly Coast Guard for the most part. I don't know what that one is. But get over here as well. Notice things going on. Starting to pick up. There's a lot of activity off of that Constanta area that looks like they are protecting it in the water. And then we get up here on this side of it, and you're going to see like some Lithuanian warship, a couple other things. Remember, this is Kaliningrad right here. It doesn't seem to be too much from a military perspective in here. Okay, let's talk a little bit about supply chain as we were just looking at that flow and everything that's coming through, and just the fact that there is a lack of anything coming from China. Yet, they're still saying our warehouses are clogged, there's rail delays, and it's a new supply chain woe. This just came out. This is not good. What they're saying basically is when the stuff comes off of the ships, once they can even get it off, they're having problems even finding rail to get it internally to its destination within the U.S., which is no bueno, all right? And so, again, nothing coming in from China. If it was, we'd be in probably a world of hurt because the docks would be really backed up right now. But it looks to me like there is just a genuine slowdown between rail, between dock workers, between the semi-trucks. Everything seems to be very much coming to a grinding halt, all right? Okay, now here's the thing that ought to get all of our attention. China is now saying they could maintain that zero COVID policy for 5 years. You may remember China hoarded 65% of the world's grain, wheat, and soy just before they went on lockdown. 65%. That's a lion's share, okay? And so now they're saying they could just ride this thing out forever. Now, if they do that, we've already gotten the kill shot as soon as they shut down the first time. This right here would basically make us, we'd have to find other sources other than China for everything, which is a pretty big task right now because we are still very reliant on them. And so, again, if you go back to this map and you look at the flows over here on the China side, it does definitely appears that they are not, and you can look at that flow top to bottom internally. It's not coming across the drink. It's staying all inside of China. That means they are repurposing, rewickering, they are feeding themselves, and the rest of the world is basically drying up. So, yeah, they could probably go 5 years, given the amount of stuff that they have. So, all right. Now, here is the thing. We were just talking about Sri Lanka. They are facing a humanitarian crisis, as I showed in my Monkey Minute. They are starting to riot. They've run out of gas, they've run out of food, run out of medicine. 22.4 million people on this island, and it is not good. You're going to start to hear stories probably in the coming weeks of things like cannibalism because people are starving, and it's going to get completely out of control. We just keep our eye on it, keep them in your prayers, because this is starting to pop in a lot of different smaller locations around the world. Anything that's third world country right now is going to be the first ones that you're going to see relative to shortage and unrest, okay? Because they don't have anything to begin with, right? Okay, let's get over here. This is the other piece. As we talk about troop buildup, we talk about 300,000 new troops or getting to that level. And like I said, I'm hearing rumors that that our own administration is talking about putting 300,000 U.S. troops in Europe, which would be pretty high level. I think pre-Cold War we were at about 400,000, and that's just been a burn down over the years, and we got down to about 80,000. Now we're up to 100,000, and now they're about to boost that. And so we're looking for flights. If you take 300,000 troops and you put them into that area, you're talking about probably 1,000 plus flights. Okay, so we will see that uptick of troops, and we'll know exactly where they're going. Okay. Now, this is the one that caught my attention. U.S. drops high school diploma requirement and as military faces unprecedented challenges. That is because they have nearly 40,000 people that are about to get bounced because they decided not to get the old VOOP. You know what I'm saying? But it also goes to show you that we are on that war footing, because the next thing you may see is the draft come back. Okay. As they try to get the numbers that they need. When you're doing this, this is just straight volume. You're trying to get boots on the ground and as many as you can out front of all of this. So continue to watch that. But that policy change is very eye-opening in terms of where we're going. All right. Okay. Now here's another one. I found this one kind of interesting. This says Russia will soon exhaust its combat capabilities. This is basically coming out of a think tank in Washington. I don't know how real that is. I don't really believe it. I think it's, again, just rhetoric as they try to downplay some of this stuff, okay? But I think I think it's probably nowhere near that, I'll be honest with you. But we'll watch and see, okay? All right, over to Biggs Army Airfield. See what we've got. Now, this one I'm not too sure about. Notice this one comes in from Bloomington, Illinois. And that's going to be one of your Swift Airs. Those are your immigrant flights, 737-300. And from there, Biggs, it's going to Philadelphia. Now, I think personally this is probably taking bananas and rehoming them. That camp is probably filling up pretty quickly. I hear there's about 8,000 a day coming up to the Del Rio border. And if that's the case, we see the flights that are coming out. We see the flights coming in. We see the school buses. More than likely, they are moving some folks around to try and get them more into the interior of the United States. Philly looks to be one of the spots. And then this one, too, Allegiant Air coming in from Reno. And then, of course, it looks like it from there went to Las Vegas. Could be troops. All these could be troops, but I have a feeling, just looking at it, that it is not troop-related. And then this one here coming in from Orlando. Of course, they're based out of Orlando. It's going to be just probably a deadhead flight coming inbound. Let's see where it goes. We'll find out if it's going to be troops, depending on where it goes. If it is troops, then that means they're moving troops within the interior of the United States to all these locations, Philly, Vegas. So I don't know. We'll see. But I have a feeling, my gut's telling me this is probably immigrant related. All right. Okay. Here's your reach flights, just to kind of show you them racked and stacked. We just saw them coming in. These are your heavies. Notice they are back to back to back. That's a 4-ship coming inbound to the U.S. And I would imagine they're getting ready to reload back up and head back across the drink. So, again, we'll continue to watch that. And then these are going to be your camber flights. These are troop movements. Ramstein, leaving Ramstein. And then this one here is coming out of County Kerry, which is in Ireland, and that looks to be okay. That one's headed interior, probably to Ramstein. This one looks to be headed down into the Middle East from Ramstein. So again, they just keep beefing up troops, adding to them. And so again, if you're going to add 300,000 troops over time, that's about 1,000 flights. So we will definitely see and notice the uptick, similar to what we're seeing here today with that big heavy flow coming across. Okay, here's another camber flight coming out of Poland into Shannon, Ireland. That is probably exfilling troops and more than likely a rotation, bringing them out of Poland to Ireland, and then they'll get flown back here, probably into Fort Worth Alliance or Biggs. Okay, let's see what the Brits are up to today. Lots of flights, sitting about 5 of them right now. That is down about half of what it was when I looked at it an hour ago. But as you can see, The Brits and the U.S. are the two biggest movers in all of this. Looks like they got folks all the way down in Africa, right down way south here. Looks like that one came out of Cyprus, headed back to the UK. Again, Cyprus is a pretty big location for us. You'll notice here if we get over to this side of it and you get into the Mediterranean, there's a lot of stuff going on right here outside of Cyprus. A lot of military activities. This is just one giant box. The 23rd through September 23rd of military exercise and ops. And again, this stuff right off the coast of Beirut. Nothing over Syria, nothing over Israel, which is kind of interesting. But again, very, very active. All right. Let's see where we left off here. Let's look at the Ruskies, see if we've got anything on the board. Looks like they got two up right now. RSD-8, that looks to be coming out of Moscow. And then this one here coming out of Dushanbe. And let's see, don't know where that looks to be. Okay, that is Belarus. It looks to be heading into Belarus. So you got one coming out of Moscow into Belarus, and then one coming inbound. Looks to be coming into Moscow. So now remember too, Putin for the first time is traveling. He hasn't really traveled much since all this stuff kicked off. So it looks like he's on the move again. I don't see his ship up there. That's usually RSD 3 is the one we usually watch for him. Okay, Omni Flights look like they have all landed. We had one coming in from Japan into the U.S. that has since landed, so nothing on the board for Omni, which is kind of unusual. Usually see something up for them, but they look to have been moving folks out of Asia back to the U.S. And vice versa. And then this is going to be all of those Southwest flights, the ones we were just talking about. Notice this one coming from Phoenix, headed up here to Minneapolis, sorry. I don't know why I just throw too many things in there, but looks like that one's headed to Minneapolis, and more than likely that's going to be immigrants being taken up there. As we've seen, looks like things are moving interior-wise. This one to Philly from Biggs. Again, that's probably immigrant-related. And then this one, Miami, upwards to, where is that headed? Looks like Kentucky. Let's see. So Fort Bliss to Philly. And then we've got these three from Valley headed Alexandria, 72-hour holding facility. And these two that are headed down south of the border. So, yeah, that's Miami to Kentucky. All right. Okay. Simply amazing. This is going to be Guantanamo Bay. And we've got a new flight that's been coming in and out, and I don't know what much about it actually, but coming out of Palm Beach is very unique. Normally they come out of Lauderdale or Miami. This one has been in and out of Palm Beach now for 2 weeks on a pretty frequent basis. I wouldn't say it's daily, but it is not far from that. If we get over here to the board expanded, you can see all these B-190s. So it came in on Tuesday, came in on Monday, so that's 2 days this week. And then last week we had it Tuesday and Thursday. So really no true sequence or rhythm to it. Looks like they are just bouncing back and forth. More than likely, this is going to be one of your legal eagles or high-powered attorney for somebody that's got some bankroll sitting in jail in Guantanamo Bay for probably human trafficking, if I had to guess. And all right, now here's one. I usually have this all the way up front. I thought I'd just throw it in the back because the timing of all of this is just, you can't make it up. But France is now seeing nuclear energy output plummet at the worst possible moment. Imagine that. Now remember, Emmanuel Macron is a graduate from the World Economic Forum Future Leaders School, and he is definitely one of their cronies. The fact that all of a sudden they have this output plummet right at the time when we're hitting critical path and people can't seem to get enough energy in the region, gas, oil, anything, makes you kind of wonder. I mean, what are the odds that all of a sudden this just happens to pop off around the same time? Yeah. All right. And let's talk a little bit about Miss Cassidy Hutchinson. I want to just show you something here. This is the lady that just popped out of nowhere. Kind of remember how the Kavanaugh thing came in, and the lady that looked like it was Garth from Wayne's World popped in there and had all these stories about the wild man that Kavanaugh was in college, and how she was raped by him and all the other stuff. This is another one. You know, you get these people that are just placed in there. They come in, their testimony doesn't really hold water. This is the one that popped in yesterday and said that Trump tried to grab the steering wheel when they told him he couldn't go to the Capitol. So let's pull the thread on this. Now, when you hear that, you kind of think, oh, well, it's just, no different than me sitting in the back seat and trying to reach forward. Even in a small vehicle, you go from the back seat to reach up to try and grab the wheel that is being driven by a Secret Service agent. Doesn't make, it'd be tough to do it in a small car, but let me just show you the distance on this and why this thing doesn't hold water. Now, you're going to notice right here behind me, that is where Trump sits. You always see him. He's in the very back window. The distance between that seat and my screen is reversed on my camera, and the driver is probably a solid 8 feet, if not a little bit more than that. There is no way that Trump came out of his seat, went all the way up there, and tried to grab a steering wheel in this car. Just, it doesn't hold water. Okay, so I would think this, if anybody is smart and they're asking the questions about this testimony, folks, they are, again, trying to do everything they can to keep, the best defense is a good offense. They are trying to just barrage Trump with everything and anything they can, hoping that something sticks so they can keep him from getting back in the office. If he gets back in, it's gonna basically derail all their plans, and they know that. And so they are getting desperate, and they bring people like this in all day long to try and discredit him and try to make it look like it was all intentional. So, okay, listen, that is going to be it. One last thing here real fast. I just want to show you where Flashbang is going to be bouncing to as he gets back into the U.S., just to show you he's headed to Camp David. So that means they're going to be getting back into the bunker and start working on their war plans. And from there, you'll probably see within the next probably 2 to 3 weeks that uptick of aircraft heading across the drink into Europe per the NATO agreements that they're coming out with now at the G7. So, all right, listen, that's going to be it for today. I'll see you guys on Friday with the live SITREP. Don't forget, members in the chat, hop on over to the Q&A after this. That's it. You guys be safe out there. Stay frosty. Keep that powder dry. And we'll see you soon. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeywerxus.com.